No, but I got given this, for example, this sword as a present. This medal also as a present. I must say also that amongst Freemasons it's also very common to give presents to other Masons, especially if they are young and if they are joining Freemasonry for the first time. They will be welcomed, and during the course of the Masonic years they will get different rewards.
From what I study, I see a lot of like positive spiritual beliefs with the Freemasons.
Freemasons start at a lower level, like a positive, charity-driven society. You go through your degrees, you go through the first 3 degrees, then you join either the Rite, and it can be emulation, it can be the Scottish Rite, it can be whatever, depends where you are in the world. And when you join then these superior degrees, and also when you make active work in a Grand Lodge, if you are an officer and you reach the high levels as a Grand Officer, you know, and you are in charge of a whole district of Freemasons, then you start becoming more and more conscious that you have contacts with certain forces behind the scenes. These forces influence politics, influence religion, influence all the topics that you shouldn't be discussing in Freemasonry, but they are actually discussed in secret. In fact, in the Scottish Rite, from a certain degree onwards, you are allowed to talk about politics, for example.
So can you specify like the religious beliefs of these people?
At the top, there's not really a religious belief because they have many religious beliefs. They have the Muslim, the Christian, the Jews, but for the internal structure of, for example, Freemasonry, they see themselves mainly as Freemasons. So they see themselves as obeying to their Grand Master, not to God. And this is already against their own religion, because most religions warn about sectarian activities. The main religion warn about sectarian activities as being dangerous. But the Freemasons are not regarded as a sectarian activity. They are regarded as an open society that likes to help people in need and with charities and things like this. While instead we know that on the top level it's an interest, it's a lobby, like most lobbies of these days, brought to the establishment of this new world order that means that they want to form a one world government without any borders, but to have overall control of this one world government you have the United Nations. The United Nations has already been in control of these people for a long time now.
What made you leave these secret societies?
Yeah, well, I was from October 2003, I started to experience clashes with the Illuminati within the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is one of the most known society of Illuminati, connected to Aleister Crowley, connected to Theodore Royce. This secret society was born after Crowley and these people expanded it in various ways through the high degrees of Freemasonry. At the beginning it wasn't Crowley who founded it, but it was a group of Germans and Austrian Freemasons who were trying to, let's say, bring again with Leopold Engel, this character from Austria, to bring again the Illuminati into a certain, let's say, follow the tradition of Adam Weishaupt and re-establish the Illuminati in the traditional way. For the German tradition, obviously, we're talking about. But the Ordo Templi Orientis got founded out of these practices in the high degrees of Freemasonry, connected also with sexual magic, because they practice obviously black magic, and inside and within the black magic they practice, there was also this sexual magic that Crowley was promoting as a prophet of a new aeon. In 1904 he got revealed by Ivas, this messenger of Horus, this book of the law, and this book of the law was dictated to him while he was in Cairo by an entity. The wife, Rose, got possessed by a genie, by a demon in Egypt, who started to talk through her. Crowley was then interviewing her to understand who this entity was. And Crowley himself made a choice within the Illuminati movement that not anybody had made before them. Because yes, they were practicing Luciferianism, they were practicing Satanism, but Crowley wanted to impersonificate 666, to be the real anti-Christian figure of his day, and to become the founder of this new religion of Telema. Love is the law, love under will, and do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. This was his mottos. And it became very popular between the high degrees of Freemasonry because he had many connections with Italy, Frosini, Regini, with England, with John Yarker, who was this high degree Memphis and Mizraim Freemason, this Illuminati, who said to Crowley, you are in charge of now the high degrees of Freemasonry and the temple within the high degrees of Freemasonry, the inner sanctum of the high degrees of Freemasonry. Obviously, not all Freemasons accepted what Crowley was promoting, because it was very anti-Christian and some people had problems with it. But Crowley became a Freemason, a regular Freemason in the Grand Lodge of France and the Anglo-Saxon Lodge in Paris, and he also tried to promote a repacification between the Grand Lodge de France and the United Grand Lodge of England. This repacification never happened because there is a traditional break of two of Freemasonry between the Jacobins and the Stuarts, the people who follow the House of Hanover, who follow these days were represented by the Windsor, who is the United Grand Lodge of England, and the Jacobites who used to follow the Stuarts and the Scottish royal family. And it after became these two schools became the Scottish Rite, and the other one was the Royal Arch and Emulation. Let's say these two different schools of Freemasonry opposing each other in a way. But after, they are all on top with each other, you see, because all these groups at the end up with a monarch in charge. That monarch is usually under a specific rule, is always interconnected in one way or another with Rome, with the Vatican, because it's part of the sacred Roman Empire that never broke, really. The Ordo Templi Orientis is an organization that these days has various schools. There is the Swiss school, which is close to the Theodoreus and is more close to the Illuminati and the Freemasons' traditional way of becoming a Freemason, going through the high degrees and becoming an OTO member. Then you have OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis Caliphate, which is instead a modern version picked up by Americans from Crowley's work, using Crowley's rituals. And this is a particularly satanic group that is also interconnected with the Church of Satan. This Book of the Law, which is a terrible book in the sense that is saying terrible things against the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, and really literally making tabula rasa of all religions, because Crowley is really the ultimate Illuminati. He wants to put the Illuminati order on top of all religions and create his own religion with it. That's why he wants to create this religion of Telema. For the Satanist on the street who wants to join it's like becoming a Boy Scout of the occult. You want to join the Caliphate OTO, you become an occultist, and you get introduced in this network of Illuminati. So actually, joining the Illuminati and becoming their slave is not so difficult, because it's many secret societies that are connected to the Illuminati network, and that are, in a way, ruled by them. So if you know a bit your history and your Masonic history, you can definitely find which are these societies that you should approach in order to find more enlightenment and to be introduced after into the... Obviously, you have to have a certain degree of loyalty. They have to trust you before they can give you certain papers, a certain knowledge, and they can give you the degrees that they are giving out, like becoming a 33, 90, 95 of the Memphis and Mizraim is one of the biggest things for the for them, because the Memphis and Mizraim is the rite of the Illuminati, even more than the Scottish Rite. It brings you across those degrees that the Scottish Rite only hints upon, because it goes on the Egyptian esoterica, it goes into the Gnostic field, the Gnostic church, so it has all parts of knowledge that the Scottish Rite doesn't give you. It gives you in more detail, and that's why the Memphis and Mizraim is the rite of people like Garibaldi in Italy, who were one of the founders of modern Italy.
Okay, regarding this Satanism, that in the elite circles, like there has been surfacing a lot of stories or rumors and testimonies that there is like a human sacrifices and like criminal activity, like.
Yes, what I found out is that especially in the Memphis and Mizraim rite of Freemasonry, this is a specific rite of Freemasonry, I said Egyptian rite, not counting the Egyptian rite of Cagliostro, which is another rite called also the Egyptian rite, which is also practiced by these people who practice in Memphis and Mizraim. The Memphis and Mizraim were two separate rites. They were unified by Garibaldi, but their still practices also separate by some groups. This Memphis and Mizraim brings the degrees up to 97 and even to 100. And in these degrees, as I said, the knowledge is all of black magic, and knowledge also of sexual magic, how to use the sexual act as for creating magical child, but also for creating special amulets, special elixirs, all kinds of things that are connected with the use of sex for these magical rituals. Like I was saying, the Memphis and Mizraim particularly is connected with Satanism. So, a lot of Satanists, like even Anton LaVey himself, who wasn't particularly very well knowledge when it came down to Freemasonry, but still they viewed the Memphis and Mizraim as something external from the rest of Freemasonry, who was in itself an esoteric rite and an order that represents the Illuminati in a totally different ways, that because in the Memphis and Mizraim, especially in the Illuminati lodges that are really hardcore, they don't even use the Bible or any holy book that is not one of their ancient books from ancient Babylon, ancient Egypt. They don't use Jewish, Christian or Muslim references in any way.
Like in normal Freemasonry.
Normal Freemasonry, the two pillars of Freemasonry, the Jewish, the Christian, the hidden pillar is the Muslim pillar, and you have always a connection to the Muslim beliefs if you are in a Muslim country, if you are in a Christian country with Christian beliefs. Like for example in Scandinavia is only Christian Masonry practice, apart from Finland, but the rest of Scandinavia is the Scandinavian rite, the Swedish rite, which is only for Christians. So if you are not a Christian, you can't join Freemasonry in Scandinavia. This is not the same for other countries in the world, where actually you can be even an atheist if you join the Grand Orient of France, for example. So Freemasonry is very adaptable to the people and to the place they are living in. So it adapts. It's like something that adapts in order to rule in many ways.
Can you name some famous Freemasons like who are active in the world politics today that people wouldn't normally or people
Yes.
don't know?
For example, first of all, we have the father of George Bush, George H. Bush. We have the son of George Bush, who is initiated in the Skull and Bones. We have John Kerry, also initiated in the Skull and Bones. We have people like Kissinger, who used to be in the P2 Monte Carlo Lodge, and is still a very powerful character in world politics. We have people like Gordon Brown or Tony Blair. Gordon Brown was decided to be a prime minister. I remember already when I was in Kirby Lodge in October or November 2003, I already knew that Gordon Brown would become prime minister. That they were using Tony Blair for a period of time until they needed him, and then they would just flush him down the toilet and replace him with somebody that they think was more suitable for the moment. So Gordon Brown was already there at that time. This was said to me by people in Kirby Lodge 2818. Was a lodge full of bankiers, people from banks. It was a lodge founded by the Bank of England, and I was part of it for a period of time. It was one of the many lodges I became part of during my course of my years in Freemasonry, because my previous mentor, Principe Liada, said you have to be basically understanding that Italian Freemasonry is divided in many different sections, many different branches. There is many Grand Masters. So the best thing you can do is to go to England and become a member of the United Grand Lodge of England in order to regularize your position. And I did that, which was an experience, but I was also very disappointed because I found out that the so-called regular Freemasons were instead connected with the OTO and with the Satanists, and they actually, when I started attacking the Satanists and the OTO openly, they obviously kicked me out, or wanted to kick me out. I didn't at that point want in any way to go in front of a tribunal. I was pretty happy to go out of a lodge if I wasn't in good standing, and if I didn't want to be anymore in the company of certain people. I prefer to go just to another lodge. There's many lodges you can go. In Italy I belong to the Gran Loggia Unita Tradizionale. I participated to meetings of the Gran Loggia dell'Unione, to the Grande Oriente d'Italia di Piazza del Gesù. I was guested by the Grand Orient of Italy in Florence, by the College of Worship of Masters. So I had my own experiences, and I went around and checked for myself. But I saw that in this modern time there is not really any Western masters. There is more or less a lot of fraud people that are nothing consistent. But they are only calling themselves masters on paper. And that's where they take their power, from the big titles on paper. But they were not really people I could call masters. In all this, there's also the fact that there's Satanism present more and more on all levels of the pyramid. And me as a person, I didn't feel comfortable with Satanism anymore. And when I saw that there was a contact where there wasn't supposed to be contacts, in certain parts of the pyramid, where I saw that the Satanists, like the Ordo Temporientis Caliphate, but also the Ordo Temporientis Fraternitas Hermeticas Luciferiana, Ordo Temporientis Antigua, all the various Ordo Temporientis were all present in the high levels of the Illuminati structure, and they had very much to say. So I saw that the Satanists were very much in control of Freemasonry, and through that they controlled the various sectarian activities like the Temple of Set, the Church of Satan. These are inferior levels, that they are controlling. Just so they control people, from the guy who is playing in the black metal, death metal band, and what he's saying, to the head of a company. They are totally different people, so you need a different network of Satanists to reach certain people. There is the typical Satanist who goes around dressed in black, but that's not really the Satanist who you should fear. The Satanists you should fear are the ones who are dressing up normal, who have a nice job, kids, going around a professor of university. These are people who are very actually from the OTO became the organizer of the biggest seminar of Freemasons in Sweden 2 years ago. He put together a big seminar of regular Freemasons. And the regular Freemasons are supposed to be Christians, How is this possible to be organized by a guy from the OTO? Don't they see that there is Satanists taking over the whole show? So there is people who are deliberately acting in a naive way, not wanting to understand that their organization is completely infiltrated left, right and center by the Satanists, and that they are giving in to these Luciferian powers. Absolutely. Inside the lodges of the OTO, if you are in Moscow, in Russia, you have the poster of George W. Bush. You have and one of Satan next to him, and they say, "Hi Satan, hi Bush." You know, for them, it's like they're very happy that George Bush is such an evil person. For Satanists, the core of it is to create an empire. That's why we used to have this thing, Heil Imperium. We used to go around our lodges, and people used to salute us with this Heil Imperium, because the P2 became like an imperium. It was such a big myth. Even if the lodge was destroyed by the scandal, the surviving elements and the Committee of Monte Carlo were very powerful, and the P2 still has a big name. So a lot of people are involved with it.
Mm-hmm. This documentary would be just for ordinary folks who might never have heard of, like Propaganda Duo. Maybe just shortly just tell what it is, and then we can continue another thing.
Sure. Propaganda Due was a lodge that was born already at the time of Garibaldi as a lodge propaganda. It was an old lodge, a lodge that existed for over 100 years, and that in the 60s came under the control of Licio Gelli. It was given to him by the Americans of the CIA, so he could control through this lodge all the VIP people in Italy, who didn't want their name on the official Masonic list, but propaganda was always a reserved list, so the members were never made public. And the P2 Lodge was also, for that reason, they were members also of the Ecclesia Lodge. Ecclesia Lodge is the lodge inside the Vatican, because there is lodges of Freemasons inside the Vatican called Lodge Ecclesia. And P2 had many members of Lodge Ecclesia amongst them, and it functioned as a trade union between the Jesuits, the New World Order plans that they had, the Americans, CIA, and their own plans for the Gladio, the fighting of communism. And so in a way it functioned as a lodge that was supposed also to do propaganda. So you had journalists, you had writers, musicians, people from the world that could promote what they had, whatever was the topic they wanted to promote.
Still functions today? Functions
under different names, yeah, definitely. And the Monte Carlo Lodge is only one of the many, even if it's probably the most important, because Monte Carlo is a place where you do business in Monaco. And the fact that the Prince of Monaco is part of it, and that they have the monopoly over the whole people from the secret police in Italy, from France, they all go there and they take the instructions. Like the P2 used to be, in a way, irregular. It was irregular until 1975, till the middle of the 70s, and it was actually considered irregular until the beginning of the 80s, when they discovered that the scandal erupted. But that was a lodge belonging to the Grand Orient of Italy, who is an official body, recognized worldwide. But nowadays there is a lot of other obediences. Also Licio Gelli still goes on. There is a lot of other Freemasons in Italy that have a lot of other obediences and are independent, and they don't give their list to the police or to any other, out officially. So they are secret societies, definitely.
We also had members all around the world, especially in Latin America.
Yeah.
Could you, and connections to many of the extreme right-wing groups over there.
Yeah, that was well before my time in the P2. That was in the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, also with Peron, with in Argentina. Well, I don't know that much apart from recently.
It was before.
It was before my time, but recently it's been still surfacing in Tribunal in Italy, still last year, this case, because obviously Licio Gelli has always been untouched by it. Untouched because he's protected by the Vatican, he's a Knight of Malta. This mom also played a particular role in the P2. The P2 functioned a bit like a lodge of SMOM, of Sovereign Military Order of Malta members, like an elite. And the same happened in Argentina. They were all part of the Knights of Malta, so they were all, at the end of the day, under the Vatican. And the Vatican was controlling them all through the Knights of Malta. And also in Argentina that happened. I can tell you that what happened also recently is that the regular Gran Lodge of England, that was formed also by me in 2005 with the P2 and with Rui Alexander Gabiro, has now formed a new obedience in Argentina with Carlos Pacchioni, and they are in the process of creating a whole new network in the whole of South America. And this whole new network that is creating new Grand Lodges worldwide is an irregular network. The Grand Lodges, the regular Grand Lodges, like the United Grand Lodge of England, say they are irregular, they are renegades. Why they are irregular? Because the official Grand Lodges already want to distance themselves from whatever might happen next to these lodges, because they are connected with the secret services, with the Illuminati, with all kinds of things, you know. So they don't want to have anything to do with these lodges. But they're expanding in South America, and Argentina is one of their new avenues.
So,
and this is the old network of Licio Gelli that is coming back together. It's new people, young people, but still the same old crooks on top. What happened was that Licio Gelli had expanded his P2 association after the middle of the 70s. The P2 was dismantled as an official lodge, became itself an independent body, and established itself as a Grand Lodge with 12 divisions. And the most important was obviously the Monte Carlo Committee, but the other ones, when they started to persecute the P2, they gave more than 900 names, but only the names they wanted to give, not all the names, because the police arrived in Villa Vanda where the names were kept, but they were only kept certain names inside the safe. They were not all the names of because the P2 counted probably around 2,500 members, and the ones who were exposed were only 900.
Among them, Silvio Berlusconi.
Amongst them, Silvio Berlusconi. Silvio Berlusconi, and not only Silvio Berlusconi, but many of the people that we find with Silvio Berlusconi now in charge of power in Italy, and in charge also with TV stations, like Maurizio Costanzo, for example, is this famous journalist, and he was a member of the P2. Gervaso, who is also a journalist still with Berlusconi, and he was also a member of the P2. We can say that P2 functioned like a lodge until officially under the Grand Orient of Italy until 1975. After it became a renegade lodge, until the police didn't then in 1981 take all the names from Villa Vanda, and then they started to really persecute also the remaining this lodge. It was illegal in a way, because it was not even anymore connected with the regular Masonic obedience. But at the beginning, the Grand Orient of Italy had given Licio Gelli a specific possibility, that was to develop his lodge outside of the borders of a regular Masonic obedience. He could just come to you if you were a famous person with a Masonic sword and make you a Mason on the spot. So he had an office in Rome, at the Grand Hotel in Rome, in which people were just coming upstairs, getting initiated by the sword and entering the network without really doing all the Masonic rituals and stuff. The ritual was not very important for Licio Gelli. It was more important who you were. I was, for example, an important person in the music business, person also in charge of. I was initiated in various Masonic lodges. I was important for them for a specific reason, that my family bloodline was also connected to the Queen Mother. They could trace from me a long line of Freemasons and of knighthoods, members of knighthoods, and so for them it was a privilege to have me amongst them and to get me involved with all this dirty business, if you want to say. Let me call it this way.
Could you tell about Licio Gelli as a person? I heard he started his career as an informant for the Gestapo.
Yes, Licio Gelli. Licio Gelli, interesting enough, is a person I met very early in my age. I was 18, I was working for a club near Arezzo called the Crocodile, Monte San Savino. There were some people that were involved with him, who knew about me and my family and who I was. And my grandfather was a senator and a member of the Masonic Lodge, so well known to them. And I had the opportunity to meet Licio Gelli once for this reason. On a Sunday, he used to go to his son, who used to have a shop, antique shop. And so I got to meet him, and I got to meet the kind of people around him, and I can say that they are all very much working for the American intelligence, and totally still now under their control, but at the same time working for the Vatican, for the Knights of Malta, who seem to control the American intelligence themselves.
Okay. So, like fascism and CIA has a long history.
Fascism and CIA has a long history, also the Nazis has a long history with the CIA, but as I said, the Knights of Malta seems to be the people you should study a bit more if you want to discover about the long lines of traitors that we have in our intelligence communities.
Okay. So this
traitors, because they're not working for our countries, they're working at the end of the day for the Vatican, for the Zionists also. There is a connection with Licio Gelli, especially in the Mossad, which was a connection alive until recently. This connection because the P2 used to also work for Mossad in Italy during the strategy of tension period. We are ready for another episode with the mysteries of the Illuminati.
So maybe we should start about like going through these documents and a little bit more detailed introduction of yourself, your family, and like how it's connected to these things. I mean, we talked about this before, but go through these documents that you showed me.
My family, from my mother's side, comes from the Lyon family in Scotland, who is connected to the royal family through Elizabeth Bowes Lyon, who was the Queen Mother. Here I have a family tree, with this family that goes back to 826, with one of the first kings of Scotland, and the whole line of kings of Scotland. And we have also included in these ancestors in the year 1040 Macbeth, who is a famous character brought by Shakespeare to the knowledge of everybody. And I have also the family, this is not a family tree, more of a family history of the Di Gregorio family. This is from the aristocratic books left in Sicily, where
they have all the line of Sicilian ancestors that actually go back to year 1018 in Scotland. This is in Germany, in Cologne, in Germany, where they started with a guy called Gregorio Bolzani.